How are you?
Good.
I think
Oh
this,
man.
I think this hand has sabotaged our stream. This is the first time I've had to delete the stream and then re-enter the stream. So I think when people like sort of realize what's happening, um, yeah, this will be pretty funny. Anyway, welcome to the podcast. I'm actually doing a sort of a retrace into Web3, or actually not a retrace, more like a push forward into Web3. So I've never actually spoken before. Well, we have like pre the call, but before this, like really fresh and stuff. So um, yeah, welcome. And yeah, I'm just gonna. Uh, okay, just hello everybody. Just want to say hi to everyone. There's already 5 people here. So yeah, Bianca Wyler, previous head of Reddit Digital Collectibles, and this controversial picture. I'm taking away from our beautiful guest today by just displaying this hand, but no, no, I haven't rugged you. I haven't rugged you. Never, never gonna rug you. Um, so like before we dive into this hand, I think that that's enough shock value for anyone replaying this video. I just want to say welcome. And yeah, nice to see you. And please tell me about yourself, your digital collecting experience, and digital building experience. More importantly, the floor is yours. Stop talking.
Yeah, I'm looking at the comments and I'm recognizing some people I used to talk to back during my Nifty's days. So shout
Yes,
out to Blackbeard and a few of the people I see. It's like it's a
sure.
nostalgic almost.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, I've been in the Web3 space now for 10 years or over 10 years. I joined as a community member myself. And back then I had a really strong business development and marketing backbone. And I was super fascinated with the space. I was more fascinated with where emerging technologies and the communities that kind of support emerging technologies live and reside. And back then, it was like a bunch of different forums, tech forums, Reddit. And so I myself was like, I want to be part of the community that drives like Bitcoin, right? Where when I first joined, it was, I don't even remember the price, and now it's over 100K, breaking new all time highs. And so for me, when I joined, I was really fascinated with how a project starts from zero and then scales to where it's at now, specifically with Bitcoin. So I kind of started my journey that way. And then I just got really deep into the space, volunteering, being part of the community, moderating for some discussions in groups, and then also just kind of helping. Back then, it was like you guys think it's the wild, wild west. Today, it was even crazier back then. Um, and I would help developers and their teams try to position their technology to make it more Web 2 friendly, if that makes sense. Hey, Mafuz. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I got started. And then, long story short, I started volunteering for a lot of different organizations, layer ones, and started just kind of helping different coins kind of scale. I was part of the OG SHIB team. Um, and then I found myself working with Nifties along the way, which is what you opened up so lovely with.
sure. Um, Again, right? Let's get this elephant out the room because it is an elephant in the room. Um, Damn, what happened here? Really? Like, damn, seriously, like, what happened? What happened here?
Oh hey Mark. What's crazy is when I joined Nifty's, because now my journey's been so long, and recently I just recently left Reddit as the head of digital collectibles. But during this time when Nifty's launched like the Matrix avatars and all of the different things that were going on, like the more I look at it, the more I'm like, damn, that was super
I mean,
crazy.
how did this pass QA? Like, seriously, what happened?
Well, let me dive into that because
Right,
back then, and
okay,
like it kind of sucks because now I'm in a different position. I've have much more experience and I've worked with so many different projects since this has happened. But
right,
back then, we were working with a digital agency. For those that don't know, Daz 3D, I think that was the name. Not sure if they've changed it recently. But we were working, we've essentially partnered with them with a lot of the like the digital assets that we were creating. And this was one of the larger projects that we were working on. And we were kind of in a sprint. And so when we originally got all of the digital assets, we only saw, I think, like the top hundreds hero SKUs is what they call them. And it's like the top 100 digital collectibles that we had and we reviewed and making sure that, and it was presented to us in phases because for those that don't know or aren't familiar with the project, the build your realm, like you mint like this base character here, and then you can collect assets or resources to be able to upgrade. That was kind of like phase two of the project. And when we received this, we actually received it and we actually sat down with the community. I remember pretty sure Mark was there, Graslow was there, and we had like all of the top moderators and like the hardcore community that were like, with us since the beginning of Nifty's. Review all of this, review the roadmap, and everybody was so excited. And us at Nifty's, we just received like the top 100 hero SKUs to be able to view everything, and we kind of trusted Daz 3D, who we had worked with so many other stuff, right? That they had already done all of the QA work. Mind you, I wasn't part of the finalization of all of the digital assets. I was more so involved with the go to market and like the top 100 and making sure that all of that checks out, making sure that the community sentiment from the core community was like in line. Um, and then when we launched, it was so crazy. To this day, there still really isn't hardware or network to be able to support the amount of activity and bandwidth we were essentially using up day of launch. Um, and when the product launched, first off, like the actual mint was totally botched because they ended up over allocating the white sale and like pre-sale spots. So that was botched, and you had like this huge amount of traffic of people that were wanting to be part of like the first sale, secondary, or just purchasing. And when this first came out, you actually got it, you were minting essentially like a treasure box. And then when you open the treasure box, you got like a main asset, and then you got like a series of resources cards that you would be able to then use to upgrade your collectible, right? Um, yeah, Ben Jamal, it was insane. But honestly, to be fair, they're a great team. I just think that perhaps whoever was
Yeah,
managing this specific project
flipped
like
it up.
fucked up. They
I
fucked
mean,
up.
let's face it, right? They probably built like this is probably the 0.5% that
Yeah.
they've built for this, and I can just think like this is the iceberg of but that oversight killed the whole thing.
Yeah, and
Seriously, I don't know how many millions or I don't know how much money was involved flushed down the toilet because of that one oversight.
yeah, yeah, and we can go into that. So you guys actually don't even know what it was actually way worse. So everybody got these like digital collectibles in a series of like a treasure box. And for those that remember, you open the treasure box and the team didn't realize that the box itself was an NFT as well. So people on the secondary market were selling this empty treasure box to people that didn't know. So they were selling these empty treasure box. People on the secondary thinking that they were purchasing this were getting an empty treasure chest of things that they thought was going to be like the Game of Thrones. So people were selling their treasure boxes that were empty for like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and that ended up really even the community sentiment was also fucked. So what ended up happening is we had to put a stop to the minting process to fix that portion. But what happened in like series of that as people started, yeah, you remember that, Mark? It was crazy. But what ended up happening in series in that is that people were still not able to actually open the treasure box.
What?
But when people actually started opening their treasure box and receiving some of the, or like seeing some of the reveals that were actually happening, is when we at Nifty started to see some of this botch stuff that happened. And we ended up putting a pause to the mint because it was like it was back like on our side, we were like, what the hell, what is this, like, and it was way worse. There were some collectibles that had like a super long stretched out neck, like weird.
Oh my
um
god.
And so we ended up putting a pause to it, and the DAS 3D team and our team, we were just scrambling trying to make it work. And to your point, it ended up just completely botching and fucking up the entire process. And then what was even more intense was that, like, shout out to the community, because myself, Tim, River, shout out to him. We were all trying to like retroactively answer questions. That it was the most amount of like Discord tickets we had available. Um, like to the point where people weren't even able to submit support tickets. And what's even crazier is that a week before this launch happened, Nifty's had laid off their entire customer support team. So there was only one customer support team, and then it was like the Discord team. And they were working overtime.
Okay. All right. It was getting good. Let's wait for her. Okay, hang on. All right, it was too freaking hot. That's what happened. You got booted out. There's just something cursed about this hand. Like the stream was botched, the YouTube was botched. Like you keep getting kicked out. But please continue. So there was one poor nifty support person that's never ever coming back again. But
Yeah,
please
it was
continue.
it was horrible.
All right.
And the support team wasn't necessarily familiar with Web3. So they were coming to me, and I was just so stretched thin trying to answer everybody, answer questions, be kind of like the liaison between marketing, support, engineering, community. And it was super, super difficult to be able to manage this. And then on top of that, you have an entire clusterfuck and fire happening backstage of people trying to fix this. And then I'm like, guys, we need to address this now. Like, we need to talk about the fact that like we fucked up. And then they ended up hiring, and like I love the team, Jeff and everybody. Like I think they're still in the space somehow. I know for sure, a lot of us like that were like Web3 natives still are. And the ones that were Web3 native were like, we need to address this now. But Jeff being like he was a part of the NBA and like super, super hyper sensitive when it comes to legalities and the IP and the legacy when it comes to like Warner Brothers and them. Warner Brothers was like kind of putting a muzzle on us on what we can and cannot say, which I understand. But to me, I'm like, nowadays one of the learning lessons there is when I speak with larger IPs, like they need to understand that sometimes things fuck up and you need to be
Yeah.
ready to
Okay.
take the bull by the horns and like,
Yeah.
you
Absolutely.
know,
I mean, no one is perfect, and especially, I mean, to be honest, I admire WB being here because it's a fucking brave endeavor. Like everyone's a critic, right? Everyone's a critic. Everyone has something to say, and you're building live in a really intelligent audience, like critical audience.
I you know,
Damn, like seriously, like when this come out though, it was like it was a nail on something. Like I don't know what it is. Um,
it was just a series of things that happened where this happened and then the FTX thing happened, that caused Nifty's to sway into being acquired by MoonPay. Shout out Rivers, he's still at MoonPay, leading a lot of the Web3 initiatives and efforts there. And he was honestly like, we were all fighting so hard for this to stay and for it not to lead into an acquisition. Um, but that's what ended up happening. People think that Nifty's rugged, and like one thing that I definitely want to say is that nobody in the Web3 space, as far as the ones that I'm associated with, join a project thinking that it's going to rug or them not doing their best efforts. Like Jeff really, really tried. And not to blame community, but what ended up happening after the fact is that Warner Brothers ended up like retracing. They got really, really scared about the community sentiment and everything that was happening. The press releases, people like were sending everybody death threats. Daz 3D was getting death threats. It was just so horrible that everyone that was associated with Nifty's basically did not want to continue to expose themselves when the ROI wasn't there for them. Because you have to understand, like one Game of Thrones episode costs millions of dollars. And so for us to have implemented this and to continue to like, it was just so much that for them, they were like, we're going to pull back and like, we'll revisit this in a couple of years. And then the FTX thing happened, or not in a couple of years, in a couple of months to see like what we can do to fix this. And then the FTX thing happened and so many other things kind of happened in conjunction with all of this that it was just like really bad timing, honestly. And again, it's not to blame the community because we could have definitely done better. The community and marketing team, we work hand in hand. But what was crazy is like, especially now, I definitely, again, one of the learning lessons is like I definitely involve myself in a lot of the creative decisions that happen behind the scenes to avoid things like this because you know sprinting and having a very ambitious project like the Game of Thrones, like realistically shouldn't have been launched the way that it did. And what's funny is that some people don't realize that when you work with large IPs, and like we can even talk into my time at Reddit as well, you have people that are super pro Web3, excited about the future, excited about like the vision, and you have people that are like building products with you, wanting to get it, across that finish line. And then you have the side, and it's gotten much better, but there's still a lot of fighting that needs to be done. The other half is thinks that Web3 is like shitcoining and all of the negative stuff that's associated with crypto. So you have a team that's wanting it to move forward, and then you have some of the individuals that don't quite understand Web3 and all of the intricacies and everything that's happening. And I've been part of conversations, and I'm not going to specifically call out names or brands, where we were literally working on a project that it was everything the community was asking for. It was everything that we were wanting to do. And we're getting ready to announce the launch. And then last second, some VP up the ladder goes, "Oh, no, we can't announce that because of XYZ." And we had to completely retroactively, like, just redo everything from scratch, which ended up also affecting our timeline. And so, again, in retrospect, like you want to make sure that you establish almost like a process and expectations with these large brands, because if you don't, then they can pull the plug on you last minute and it doesn't matter. And they don't care if you've spent millions of dollars in resourcing to make this thing live. And then we're kind of sitting on our hands being like, how do I handle this with the community now? So it was just a bunch of stuff that's happened.
First of all, thank you for giving me this scoop. Um, a lot of my friends now online are very close to Big IP, um, to WB, to DC, consumers of it daily. We have probably discussed every bloody aspect of Big IP collecting, even like how did like our founders breathe this morning, or did they breathe correctly, like it's really up to that detail. Like this is the community that has seen it all. And it's so refreshing for you to be able to talk about this like this, and it's almost like what is needed, because NDAs don't really help. In my personal experience, NDAs suck. Like they don't accomplish anything, because anyway the truth's gonna come out either via whispers, or like worse, the community making its own conclusion, which is like like the worst thing that could ever happen. So no, I think I mean I can't fully like still grasp my head around, like my deductive brain is trying to go, where does the elongated neck and elongated hands fall into this expensive, like Game of Thrones is not a joke IP. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure this had eyes, but where do you think Big IP fucks up though? Like, where
I
did
don't think necessarily that it was like, I don't want to say a specific team fucked up. I really don't want to say because, like, I've been in meetings with large IP who are really wanting to push the bounds when it comes to emerging tech and everything. And again, like, I feel like, the community is really quick to be like, we're getting rugged and this is happening and
yeah, true.
whatnot. And I truly don't think that people join a space for this to happen. Do I think that people get burnt out and then they end up giving up? That's another story. But I think that you need to have individuals like myself and Rivers who are like truly passionate about the space and want to continue to building and want to continue fixing things that need to be fixed and understanding the space and addressing things and being in like, public facing opportunities where you are addressing the communities. Even what I'm doing now and like talking to individuals that were associated with Nifties, you want to give people the peace of mind that when you continue to build that, like, the people that are still there supporting you, have like that rapport and trust. Because if you just kind of pull out, and then you come back and try to tap into that community, it's not it like the community can smell bullshit from miles away. And what have you done in the space to kind of build that confidence back up? So there's that, and I definitely think that some IP that have probably disappeared from the space or stopped building in the space that are probably starting to talk about coming back should definitely readdress or come up with some sort of game plan to fix the mistakes that were probably made in the past. I think that's step one into definitely fixing and building community sentiment, because it does if one failed thing happened or a botched thing like this happens, it doesn't mean that you can't come back stronger. And
Yeah.
which is why, like, I remember fighting with the team internally, like, we need to address this. Who cares that we fucked up? The community's not going to go anywhere. They've
Mm.
been here for so long, wanting us to do more.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
let's fix
We've got
this.
scars. We've got scars left, right, and center. We've been rugged.
Yeah.
We've been like, yeah.
I
Anyway,
myself have been part of like, I was part of like the Nike, when all of that shit happened, and then for them to just completely abandon, like that sucks. And so I think it just takes people in my position and leadership positions to just be like, hey, no, we need to fix this, and how can we fix this, and what can we do? Who can we partner with? Can we get a grant from this blockchain to help revive this? Like what, it takes up like a go-getter like that to make sure that you give the community peace of mind, but then also the investors and blockchain and the large IP peace of mind as well. And it's really hard, and you can get lost in the sauce on all fronts when you don't have somebody that can just remain level headed. I think it just takes experience as well to be able to manage everything and just kind of be like the chief operating officer or executive officer to be able to manage and execute these projects. And a lot of times what ends up happening is, especially with like large IPs, you end up getting scared and they just pull away and like, okay, we're gonna wait until community sentiment and like everything just dies down and calms down. It's like that's not the right approach either. So I don't know. A lot's to be said there. I definitely think that, you also live in a world where I think the community needs to understand that sometimes it's not in the best interest of projects. It's just like a money pit for them, and they're going to abandon it, and that also sucks. So
mm,
establishing like a clear roadmap and something that the IP or brand or whatever it is that you're working with understands that this is going to be a long-term process, that they're fully on board for the long haul. Or I'm sure the community would also understand if Warner Brothers says, we're just doing this one drop, we're not doing this fucking metaverse, we're not doing this game, like this is this one drop. Like set the expectation there, but then kind of like, leading, like just kind of like stringing the community along, like that's not cool either, right? So I don't know. There's different approaches to definitely handle IP and handle working on behind the scenes. It just takes a lot of transparency and gut and like grit to work in the space.
mm,
um but I still think, like, I remember having a chat with the individuals that were running this at the time, and I know that they've had some layoffs, so I don't know who is in charge anymore, but like, hey, let's bring it back. I was talking with some people during my time with Reddit on launching some really cool stuff. And then, it also takes time. Like it took 3 months just to ramp somebody to do one drop with Reddit. So sometimes it like, I don't think people understand that I can, like, let's say that there's me, right? And I'm doing everything I can on the back end to try to make these partnerships and things run. And it still is on, like, it's just not a one-way street. I can work as fast as I can possibly humanly possible can. And then it's on the hands of the IP or brand too to work just as fast as I am, or sometimes they're just taking their sweet time. They also have so there's a lot in this, that kind of plays part. So there's really not one answer.
oh my God. Well, actually, I'm gonna take. I'm like really starving. I just finished work. I'm just gonna grab. I know this is really for me, but you can chat. If you could just ask her some questions, you can free fall into just a 2 minutes. I'm starving right now. I just need to get something because I can't think clearly. Is that okay? Sorry, I've never done
Go
this
for it.
before.
I see
This
Blackbeard. I
crew
see
is
Lexi
strange.
T. I see Mark.
Okay,
I
all right.
haven't
I'm gonna.
chatted with them. Is Lunatics gone forever? Dang. No, it's not gone forever. Let me scroll down. Lunatics is not gone forever. We ended up refunding everybody. So we've put up a pause on the initiatives that are going on with Lunatics. Funny enough, we ended up launching Lunatics right when the FTX stuff happened. So a lot of marketplaces that we had partnered with at the time just ended up just even like OpenSea. I had a conversation with OpenSea and Magic Eden recently about their digital collectible like stack and stuff that they're doing in the future. And even they are starting to pull away from digital collectibles and working more on like DApp solutions and a launch pad for that. So it's one of those situations where I'm now in a new opportunity where I can definitely revamp the Lunatics. It's just a matter of making sure that there's still interest when it comes to digital art and like fine art and that hybrid there. I would be down to bring Nifties back. Like, I think Mafu, I think he or some of the community members got a hold of the old Discord. Like, I would be totally down to bringing that back. I know that Doc or Prez was going to ask me about this, and we can talk about my new opportunity here soon and what I'm doing now since I've left Reddit. But I would be so down to bring Nifties back, and I'm in a position where I can definitely do that. Or at least maybe not even Nifties, but bring back the Matrix and the other metaverse because Nifties as a platform is gone. But I'm now part of the Space IO team. So if you guys look up spaace.io, I'm part of that executive and C-suite team, and we're doing all of the stuff that we were planning to do at Nifty's. Did you guys envision the mass adoption that happened with collectibles? No. So so the digital collectibles that happened at Reddit technically happened 3 years ago. Um, and they were building on the old Reddit platform and the old tech. They've recently merged on over to the new tech. And when it first launched and they created the creator program, which was 2 years ago, they were thinking like maybe 100 people would participate, maybe 100 digital collectibles would launch a year. They thought that was going to be enough. They completely underestimated the amount of demand and support that happened. And mind you, they launched around the time that Nifty's was launching, right? Or when around the time that Nifty's kind of went away. Uh, and they ended up onboarding 12 million people within the first like couple of days. Um, and it was insane. And there was a lot of tech stuff that was actually supported that they didn't even use. It wasn't used until I officially got onboarded to lead the digital collectibles program. And one of the things that was really cool about the digital collectibles is that you had the opportunity to do token gating. So like the way that we were doing stuff at Nifty's where we did like token gating events and we did like all of those cool do like choose your own adventure stuff that was gated to specific holders. Like you were able to do that within Reddit depending on the type of digital asset that you owned. And then one of the other really cool things that I was working on was the brand enablement feature side. So individuals who were essentially owning, or like let's say that McDonald's, right? You guys are familiar with the McDonald's and the Doodles launch that happened, where I think they went wrong, and that kind of goes into like Legacy's question a little bit. Uh, is they partnered with Doodles and the McDonald's brand is iconic and that whole thing was like awesome. It was like starting to make waves, but then they were like, we're going to give this like digital collectible or you're going to earn this thing if you sign your wallet up here in this other platform. And like McDonald's doesn't have that kind of audience. So mainly you had the Web3 audience that was now kind of doing this other side quest in a completely, totally different platform. So I don't think it necessarily created a mass onboarding event there. The way if, let's say Doodles and McDonald's came and partnered with us at Reddit, we would have been able to create a dope campaign where individuals would have gotten a golden ticket DM to them. So imagine if you're on Twitter and you open up your DMs and you say, hey, Twitter sends you a DM that says you earned a golden ticket, click here to claim it. And it takes you to an airdrop page. Reddit had all of those features built that weren't being utilized. So that was one of the bigger projects that I was working on. And we were like, towards the end, we helped close like some really large deals with really large corporations to offer that. And that was exactly what the space wanted. Like, I was chatting with Tesla, I was chatting with Toyota, I was chatting with these large companies that when I was explaining that feature to them, they were like, this is exactly what we wanted because us launching a digital campaign or a digital Web3 experience was going to cost us so much money. Let's just partner with you for us to do that. And you help knock out the one thing we wanted, which is just to have this viral moment happen. So I think that's what the space is needing when it comes to IP and like, larger companies coming into the space. Because right now, what the missing link is that if somebody wants to come into the Web3 space, they're having to invest millions and millions of dollars. And then the individuals that are running the ship behind the scenes don't even realize, especially if they're not Web3 native, that you need to have like a roadmap. Like these people, unless you've already communicated with them that this is just a one time thing, there's nothing associated with this, digital collectible. But then the individuals that are actually minting the digital collectible are like, well, then what the fuck is the point of you even coming to Web3 if you don't have like this like future plan, right? So you have those two kinds of disconnects. But when you partner with like a Reddit or a space or whatever, you're able to kind of offer that suite of stuff, and then the company is able to then offer the community experience. So I think that's what's missing. And I definitely see progression happening, and it's imminent for sure. But we're back, Prez.
Hello. Thank you for taking over. Um, I mean, okay. Are we ready to unshare this? Because this is like a moth to a flame. Like, I think this picture enrages everybody, but also draws everybody because I think it keeps us all angry and focused, right? I mean, there are nice things that happened to Nifties. For example, like, I don't know, the Tweeties was really freaking great. Like, I loved it, right? Like, um, hang on, let me see if I can get my Tweety bird up. Like, I've been like, I've just been like, it just popped in my head. Um, God damn it! Give me a second. No, but what I'm trying to say is just like, it's not all rough. Like, we're here for a reason. It's because we love, experiencing our IP in different ways. And this is a new experience for us, but also probably a new way to build behind the scenes, right? And I mean, that's kind of like what I'm trying to get at. Is there like a premise you think, like, why are what is like the goal for like these IPs being here? Do you think it's because we are betting that the masses are gonna come here? Because I wound up here because I like Batman. Like, I picked up the first thing I saw, which was at VV, and there it was. Like, that was the catch. And now I'm like, I'm not actually let go of that. Like, I'm still around. But like, what are your thoughts? Like, is that still like the golden goal? Is to just be able to onboard? Because there's been opportunities like the fandoms, for example. Like, I've heard like the fandoms really have onboarded a lot of email addresses and people in there, but what's done with that conversion rate? Like, it's not like it's not like they're all here, right? Like, what happened? Maybe some quick thoughts on that. Like, I guess just your normal mass adoption talk, right? But
Yeah, that's actually a question I ask. That's one of the main questions I asked during my time with Reddit and any other company I was with is like, what is your guys' goal with this campaign? Or what is your guys' goal when you think about Web3? And like the top, some companies will say, we really want to implement some sort of reward mechanism for our community. This is a way that we find that we can really tap into our community and offer them these like different incentives. That's kind of like the main thing I tell them. Or you have other individuals that are like, we have this campaign and thing that's happening and we want to definitely like tap into the Web3 community. And then I'm like, you guys don't really need the Web3 community. Like Web3 community needs you guys, honestly. So it's like, what is it that you're wanting to build so that you can meet both? Like, because Web3 is really great when it comes to the fandom, like you mentioned, where everybody at Nifty's that joined obviously saw, especially when it comes to IP fandom collectibles, that isn't like the obvious next wave. Where if you are, even if you are like a Call of Duty player, and you are grinding these different battle passes, or you're grinding these different, um, rewards to unlock specific skins. Like imagine if that was on chain and you owned it, and then you're able to sell it, and that gives you power ups. Like that's a whole conversation when it comes to gaming. And then you have like imagine if digital collectibles, if the Pokemon Go game, you're walking and all of a sudden you found this one rare skin that you're able to apply to your Pokemon that you're able then to sell. Like that's a really powerful use case because there's millions and millions of people that are constantly collecting these things, and like they can make millions of dollars just off of that one concept. So I always like to talk to brands that way, where it's like this is what you guys can build. But if you walk into Web3 with just like this one track mine and just wanting to do this one activation, then you can probably ruin your experience and how you approach Web3 in the future. So then I've sat down with brands that are like, oh no, we are building the new wave of digital collectibles, and we're definitely going to use this IP. We have this retired IP. Like I was chatting with, for those people that are like fans of Rick and Morty and Adult Swim, I was chatting with some of their old creators and the artists of those original shows, where they were like, hey, we really want to tap into our old community, um, that were like diehard Rick and Morty fans, or whatever, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and we want to like really connect with them and offer them this like digital collectible experience and like maybe do cards. So there's a whole wave of people that are doing a bunch of different stuff. Yeah, exactly, Bill. You just really need to get some roots so that you can grow. But I always like to ask them, like, what is your long-term goal when it comes to Web3? Like, do they even have a goal? Because if they don't, I probably won't work with them unless it's just like I really like the approach Avenged Sevenfold has, where they have their community, they have like um their NFT that they're dropping a season 2 for, and anybody that purchases a ticket, they reward, and that's how they connect. And all of these different IPs have an opportunity to do the same thing. There's obviously some IPs that fit more into Web3 than others, but I mean, it just really depends on how you look at things. These brands have more trouble navigating Web 2. Do you think they will allow more Web 3 natives to take more charge? When you say Web 2 and brands, do you mean like the people that are operating behind the scenes, or do you mean like brands in general? I'm assuming you mean the brands that are leading the web, like the big IPs. So when it comes to the large IPs, you have a lot of old people that are like behind the scenes because they have more experience and they have probably been like grandfathered in into working in, with certain stuff. And then you're seeing a wave of individuals that are hiring for emerging technologies, that and they're really hesitant in giving them reins to be able to actually run. That was the way it was for me, honestly, at Reddit. Like you had to fight. Like just because you work at a company doesn't mean that it's like easy sailing. You have to constantly fight internally to make sure that your vision is seen through. And even in Web3, you're like, fighting with your team. Not, and I wouldn't say fighting. You're more so like making sure that you're aligned so that the vision makes sense. So I definitely think that Web 2 companies are starting to move in the direction where they're starting to lean more into working with people who have more experience when it comes to Web 3. I think we're in a different cycle where there's a lot more individuals who are positioned in leadership roles that have experience, that are ready to let these individuals kind of lead the charge. And then you have companies that just won't let go of the reins. And I'm in a position where I can say, you know what, this relationship probably doesn't make sense for us. I'll point you in a direction where you definitely can get the type of support you want. But when it comes to working with me, it definitely needs to be a little bit more thought out and planned, and not just kind of like a cash grab, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
Do you think in current market conditions the model for a startup to license big IP? I think it depends. I think it depends. So when I spoke with like Adult Swim and a few of the large brands that I were talking to, launching, or like, to them it's more of an incentive for them to sell part of their IP, like giving them like limited licensing to be able to launch something rather than them fully diving in, which is not that is not sustainable, because that's something that actually happened at Nifty's, where you had Warner Brothers being like, we're going to give you limited use of our IP, you can only use it in this way, and then you had like the community being like, when are we doing all of this stuff, and are we going to like have our characters in a movie, and it's like, well, no, because we only have access to the IP to do like certain things. So in that way, I don't think it's sustainable. It's sustainable for the company because they're just making money regardless, right? But for the actual company that's trying to scale the Web3 initiative, that doesn't make sense. It's great for like onboarding in that specific moment, to onboard like the community, and then maybe hoping they stay, for the other products you have coming up. But when it comes to the Web3 experience, I don't think it's sustainable. You had Hello Kitty and a bunch of other stuff launching, and then they ended up like nobody's even talking about them, right? So I think in terms of that, it's not sustainable. I think that if you're going to be working with large IPs, you really need to think about the vision there, like how I mentioned with Pokemon, where it's like, yeah, like I could see a definite use case for them and being able to actually operate within Web3, but like someone else, like Game of Thrones, to them it might be way too costly to even launch something like this. Um,
Okay. Um,
yeah, so that's me answering questions.
I'm just gonna shut up and let the community talk. Really, I mean, my job is easy. I'm just a facilitator right now. Parsifal wondering when Matrix, Avatars, and Futureverse. Uh, what do you think about Futureverse is doing with Warner Bros. And Ready Player One IP? I'm assuming this is Mr. Verde, but I know you haven't had the chance to look at this too much, right? Really, have you? Uh,
I've looked at Futureverse, and I this is where where I don't know too much about their team, but this is where I'm like, there's better technology, and I don't know who's running the helm or the wheel with this, because if you guys look into Story Protocol, that chain is much more positioned to work with Warner Brothers. So for those of you that don't know what Story Protocol is, right now when somebody mints a digital collectible, there is royalties enforced in some marketplaces. Story Protocol makes it so that there's royalties enforced for its entire lifetime. So if Warner Brother comes to you and they're wanting to launch a project with everything, they would be able to launch on Story Protocol, and they are going to continue to get basically royalties for the lifetime of that NFT, which is super powerful. So for things like that, I'm like, that makes total sense for them to do. But when they launch with like a Futureverse or the Ready Player One IP and they're doing this thing, I don't think that the individuals that are like, because I've had these conversations where I have individuals that are like part of these large corporations, and they think that blockchain means, oh yeah, if I launch this digital collectible, I'm going to continue to get IPs and or the royalty from my IP for its lifetime. It's like, no, not, OpenSea removed that ability, and so did Magic Eden and a bunch of other platforms. So technically, no, not unless you launch on a chain like Story Protocol, where you would be able to continue to get royalties off of the sale of the sale, and so on. So to me, like that is a strong use case, because then now you can continue. Like if you are a large company and that is what's attractive to you when it comes to Web3, then you want to align yourself with a company like that. And I'm seeing Legacy be like, plug your ears, Bill. And I understand where the community is like, no, once I own my asset, like nobody should control anything. I also understand that. But when it comes to like onboarding the masses and new technology, like you need to be open to all of this, because otherwise, if you're not, you're going to have companies that just shy away, and that the space is going to go stagnant and not continue to grow if you're not having new tech like this emerging, basically.
I don't even know what to say right now. I mean, this is all like wild stuff.
I don't know who Sorry No Salad is, but you've probably not been in the Web3 space that long then, if that's your opinion. I would definitely look into royalty modeling. Um, Spotify is a very famous one that is getting ready to announce some really cool stuff that has like royalty built in to protect artists, to be able to pay them. Like there's a lot happening with royalty model. Do I think that's the future of Web3? That's a whole nother conversation.
I think,
Um,
yeah, I
but
think
yeah,
like for sure, like right now, I just want to back that up a little bit. It looks like Futureverse is cooking something with Root so that royalties are enforced. Again, uh, way above my pay grade, this question, but I think I think things are evolving fast, right? I think the questions are probably too specific right now. Let's zoom out a little bit, tiny bit. Talk to me about what you learned at Reddit. Is there a link somewhere I could just come up? Because I would imagine that was a good vehicle to kind of onboard people that didn't even know they were buying NFTs, right? Maybe people that just love the chat room forum, anonymous format. Talk to me about that time, because there cannot be a an older place where you'll get unfiltered sentiment. Talk to me about Reddit anyway. Like, this fascinates me. When I saw your, to be honest, when the community is like just hyping up around X, because I spent probably an inordinate amount of time, unhealthy periods of time in X. Like obviously I've seen like them like flock to you and stuff, and I'm like, okay, oh, she worked in Reddit, okay. So please go, like, grace me with some like context, like, what is Reddit, like, how did the collectibles launch, what did you learn?
Mm, there was a lot of lessons there. I learned so much, and I'm so grateful for all of the opportunities I've had. I think Reddit was the one I was the most excited about because I was solving real world use cases and problems for companies that were wanting to come into the space and tap into pre existing communities that they didn't have access to. So, like, when uh, a company came to me and said, "Hey, like Reddit has, like, we are this new gaming company, or we're this like large gaming company, and we really like want to find a really cool and unique way for us to tap into r slash gamers and r slash gaming, which is like millions and millions of users. How can we do that in a way that won't come off like a total shill or addy or like so that to me was stuff so much fun because that's what I did at Nifty's. Like, we found new and creative ways to tap back into the community. um, so it really it depends. I loved the stuff that I was doing there when it came to that, like actual problem solving and social fi opportunities was super cool. Like being able on the back end to see how a community moves and the sentiment. And then there was times where we would launch an incentive and we thought it was going to do super well and it ended up not doing well. And then I'm like, okay, I should have probably thought about that one a little bit better. Um, yeah. So those are like the secondary sales, but when you go into Reddit, and you actually go into the Reddit homepage and you click edit your avatar, that is their marketplace. And you have all of these different digital collectible creators that are launching their own collectibles and making money. Like, they're paying their rent that way. And I love them. They were all so cool and easy to work with and like super really into the actual art. And it was actual artists creating art. It wasn't AI or anything like that. It was super cool being able to work with them. And then we did this really cool launch with Jarritos, where Jarritos actually ended up like contracting out 4 different artists that were like KOLs within within the Reddit sphere, like in our corner of the internet. Um, and it was interesting because they ended up going viral. They didn't pay for any ad space, and they ended up getting like 150,000 unique missions completed on a different platform, all because of Reddit and like their little community. What's cool about Reddit too is like, and most people's top of funnel is like Twitter, and then we do like Discord. Like with Reddit, you also get a lot more discovery features, but it's also like gnarly. That community is very passionate. You can't say one thing out of line or you'll be downvoted. Um, but I loved working with them because they were very passionate, and the conversations that they were having about the future of the digital collectibles was really interesting because similarly when Avenged Sevenfold launched their digital collectible experience and fan reward experience, somebody could integrate Reddit's API and be able to essentially call us a partner and be like, oh yeah, we integrated Reddit's API, and if you have a digital collectible, we can offer you this suite of services because you are a Reddit digital collectible holder. So that is cool because I think that that model really fits the narrative of what a lot of people are trying to do, whether it's rewards, incentivizing. And like, let's say that you were a Redditor gamer and you purchased like a Reddit avatar. There were conversations I was having with like big companies where they were like, "Hey, we want to do a campaign where if anybody owns this digital collectible from Reddit, we'll be able to play it in our game. Can we do that?" And it's like, "Yeah, let me connect you with the tech team that like manages that API solution." That was the really fun stuff that I was doing at Reddit because that is like the future of how I see this happening. Sometimes even that small little like social fi thing is what can drive mass adoption, right? Like all of a sudden I have this digital collectible that I earn because I am living and breathing and chronically online on Reddit. Now I can play it in this video game that I'm also very passionate about. Hell yeah. That might not be the future of Web3, who knows? But like that in it of itself is a pretty powerful use case, which is really cool to build on.
And how is the user base? Like, is this still going on? Is it still being built? I guess why did you leave? Yeah, those are like the basic questions I have. Yeah.
Um, I left because when I first joined, Reddit had the digital collectibles had come down from a massive bull cycle. And so they were basically needing somebody that was going to come in and clean up shop, and I did. And I think when I joined, they went from they were like in a steep decline, and then they ended up increasing 20-30% in sales, and we started like really started to get ramp up. I started doing some brand enablement features, which was really awesome. But then what ended up happening was that towards the end of 2024, there were conversations internally about what the future of the program looked like, and if everything that we're doing is going to align with their 2025 vision and like the tech that they were starting to merge on over. So I think the last conversation I had with the team was that they weren't too sure if they were going to merge the Web3 tech on over, and they were starting to kind of sunset some, like you can read about it online. They ended up sunsetting because what you guys don't know is actually like Reddit had their own cryptocurrency project and it was called community currency, and you got rewarded based on the activity that you did on Reddit. That is super cool.
Oh my
And they
God.
ended up I wouldn't say they abandoned it, but they ended up making an announcement about them sunsetting that. They ended up sunsetting some of the Reddit digital collectible features, and then why I left was because they weren't sure what the state of the program was. At least that's the last conversation I had. And so that's why I left, because I want to be part of the future of Web3 and doing really cool Web3 stuff. And if you're continuing to sunset some of the Web3 features, and they just didn't even make sense for me to stay there. There was no really opportunity for me there.
What about Nifties? Like, what was that decision to go? Did you jump from Nifties to Reddit then? Is that what happened, or did you?
So I Nifty's got acquired by MoonPay, and MoonPay ended up making the decision of shutting Nifty's down.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah.
But what happened
Sure.
there is that like towards the end of Nifty's getting acquired, and I think the community remembers this, like half of the team ended up getting like let go because half of the team wasn't going to be taken on over to the new MoonPay team. And from what I remember, like towards me leaving, they were still in the conversation of whether or not they were going to like take the marketplace. Like they were really interested in the tech and some of the future tech we were building that we hadn't even announced yet. So that's the piece that they acquired, and they at the very end decided that they were going to just shut down the marketplace and just acquire the tech. And so they ended up just acquiring the tech team, and I ended up leaving. So I ended up kind of working for as a VP of business development and community with Gokhshtein. But like being part of like that and being part of decentralized media, that's not what I wanted to do in Web3. So I saw this opportunity with Reddit, and that's where I ended up going. And now I'm working at Space, like I had mentioned. Yeah, a lot of regulations played into the decisions that Reddit had to make. So it was like even like on the accounting side, if I needed something paid, like we would have it would take a really long process, and Reddit, because of such a large company, like their accounting is backlogged by 4 months, their design studio is backlogged by 5 months. So if it took a month to ramp like a Warner Brothers, right, it would take 4 months for even design to for us to even be able to get to the designing phase. So it was just it was too much, and I think Reddit understood that. So that's why some of the features were starting to get sunsetted.
It's just me, Angel, saying he loves Reddit. To be honest with you, there was a comment here. We're just you now you now apparently have a job offer from Legacy to lead our community because we want you to
I'm
support
actually hiring a head of community for space. So
it.
if you guys want to come on over, I will definitely work with you guys all. Where, if you guys want to list your
There we
stuff
go.
there, like by all means, come on over.
There's
Yeah.
a job opening. What is
The pivot continues.
No, no, no. Talk to me about
Uh,
space now. Like this is space's time. Like we're now here. So, what are you doing there? What's happening now? Like, how did you end up there? What is it?
Yeah, I actually a lot of my Reddit OG community is coming on over to space. Like, it's the newest marketplace for digital collectibles and trading, but it's 100% more gamified. There's a lot more questing features available. You're allowed to definitely farm tokens. If you list, it's like, kind of like a Blur slash Magic Eden slash OpenSea combined. Definitely super cool. So if you guys go into, oh yeah, Mafu was part of the Reddit Discord when I first joined. They all thought he was me actually, because I wasn't supposed to technically interact with the community at Reddit. And so when he joined and I was like Anon, everybody was like, who's the Reddit lead? It was kind of funny. But if you go on the website, you'll be able to see like how gamified it is. Super cool. We have a lot of partnerships coming up with 8chain. Um, eBay, like a bunch of different really cool companies that are partnering with us. Oh, you're doing Arena, but like actually go into space.io. This is how you guys can sign up and start completing quests and doing stuff. This is just kind of like our Arena questing portal, but if you go to space.io, it's just super clean, you know, and there's 100% revenue sharing as well. So 60% of our tokens go back into the community. Um, and you can click play. If you click play, I think it'll. So yeah, pretty cool.
Hmm, awesome. Wow, that was
Yeah, our team is pretty stacked too, and we have a lot of really cool announcements and alpha communities and like KOLs and influencers that are all part of the beta testing that are like super excited for it because it's just like it's what the space has always wanted. Even at Nifty's, I remember the community being like, "We want this," and like I've purchased so much, like we should have this and this built in, and this is like yeah, this is going to be definitely what everyone's ever asked of, not just like from the communities I've been associated with, but with Web3 in general.
I can't wait to check it out. Um,
Yeah.
so what's like to like jump around projects now? What was your Well, you talked about like how you were aware of back cows during Nifty's, like your time at Nifty's. Talk to me a bit about your behind the scenes look on that. Like, what was it like? How did
When Backhouse first launched, because they were on the same chain as we were, right? So they were on Palm Network. And when it first launched, I remember that we were really nervous with the supply and demand. And when it launched, there was like, I don't think they had actually minted out the original amount that they had. So all of us at the Nifty's community internally were like supporting them, tweeting about them, posting them on our Discord, purchasing the bat cowls, um, and then just making sure that they were supported as our sister. Uh, we consider them a sister company, but they really weren't. But we supported them as like kind of our partner on chain that way. And I remember I think Mafu was had like the biggest fumble there because he was able to purchase one of the bat cowls that at like during the peak it was worth like I don't know how many thousands of dollars. But back then we were just purchasing and trying to we didn't even know really what the roadmap looked like, so we were just wanting to support them. But we were super excited. We created gifts inside. So like we did a bunch of stuff to support them, and it was like I'm so happy to see that they're still around and that the community's still super strong because that just kind of goes to show like if you continue to manage and take care of your community and that you believe in the IP and like the future of it, you're still going to continue to have that strong morale. Hopefully, right? I haven't dived into the Discord too much, but yeah, I'm so happy that they're still alive and kicking.
well, we're all just waiting for the announcement pretty much. That's pretty much what's happening. And to be
I,
honest with you, like with all this behind the scenes talk, I can only imagine, and this is why it's so juicy because we can only imagine. We're like sitting here, like we're waiting, right? We're waiting, but I'm sure things are going on behind the scenes that's
yeah,
larger than life. Like,
yeah,
yeah, don't
yeah.
join the Discord. I'll add you to my X chat. There's a bunch of us there that are actually here now. So,
Oh, cool.
uh,
Yeah, add me for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
I'm always part of different.
yeah. We're not gonna have time.
Oh, that's right. I think we gave a bunch of them away. I think we bought a bunch of bat cows that we ended up giving away. Yeah. I think that was one of our missions for Nifties. We did like this event, and if you like got enough Discord points, you were able to purchase a bat cowl. You were able to purchase like a bunch of stuff within like our internal Discord marketplace. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Mafu got one. And I think we even gave some to like the top community people that helped.
Yeah, I wasn't around then, man. I really, really missed a lot of like I was there just for the mint, like it's told me, and I'm
Like
into it.
yeah.
It's like
Discord can be toxic, and that's the only thing I can tell you community members is like just be patient. Again, it's not your guys' fault.
no,
But sometimes the team is working hard behind the scenes. Uh and you just don't know, you and then there's times where I've been part of a community where the core team that's left over is trying to do everything in their power to save whatever's left to save, and they don't have much to work with.
mm,
So it's hard. So, I don't know what the team is doing now, but I'm down to work with whomever and to connect them to whomever and like try to revamp stuff. Uh, it's just a matter of making sure I'm connected to the previous leads because I'm not connected to them anymore.
it's okay. Yeah, I was just not like I said. I mean, I want to be around forever for goodness sake. Like especially back house and stuff. I just see so much potential there. Oh, oh, here we go. Mention the announcement. Everyone's going nuts. What's happening now? Hmm. Okay, of course. Just the normal thing I see from Meet Angel every day. Our eternal bull for back house. Um, Bianca, is there anything that like you want to like? Because I know you dove in a lot like to the various different collectibles and see with your venture with space, and it's really cool that it's almost like when I talk to you now, you are sharing your experience and as pretty much a community member as well now. Like you know what I mean? Like, um, it's fascinating to me how switched on you are and what I mean. What is it like to work in Web3? Because I've seen so many intelligent people clash with like the Web 2. Oh, there is a management decision somewhere. Like it's almost like the start of every score and story. And why are the jobs so unreliable? Like are they at least are tell me at least they're like well paid and at least and they're like a bit like contracting in the IT market because I work in like the ERP industry, so it's like the tech industry. So I know that at least the consultants get paid for downtime in between projects, right? Is it high risk, high reward working in Web 3? Um,
Yeah.
everything I've just said there, I didn't really have a particular question, but I'm just like you are so fantastic. I'd love to for you to be working with you and like taking your lead and stuff. Like it's the first time I properly ever sat down with you. But like, how many people are there that are switched on? And so many questions. I'll zip it. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. I do have a call at 1 here, so in like a couple minutes, but we can wrap up with this last question. Working in Web3 can be very rewarding. Like during my Nifty's time, it was probably the most rewarding time because everybody was so excited to just be building, and we were really truly excited about the future of digital collectibles when it comes to IP. We were having conversations with Pokemon, and we were having conversations with like Harry Potter, the top IPs. What so in that regard, it's high reward because I don't think I would have had those experiences had I just been in Web 2. If because of my experience in Web 3, I was able to get those experiences, which is awesome. Um, but it's high risk because at any moment, depending on the market and sentiment and community shift, you can have all of these large companies that were like on board at one moment, then all of a sudden within a split second being like, we're pulling out. And even if you have a contract, you can't, contracts aren't necessarily enforceable. So it's like, even if a Warner Brothers or someone, signs a contract with you, you can't necessarily enforce it unless you are in a position of Reddit, or unless you're in a position of like a really, really large company that's already giving you money. Um, but if you're in a smaller position where you're like, hey, large or Web2 IP company, I want to work with you. Like, I'll help you do this. This is how we can help you. We have this grant. And then they last minute decide to pull out. Like, you can't really do anything about it. And that sucks. And then there's high risk when it comes to the community, because you don't know how the community will react to some of the decision making that happens. There might be a team that's like not necessarily plugged into Web3 that's really excited about this decision that they're about to make and announce, and then the community reacts a completely different way. And then you're in a position where you're having to protect the community sentiment and the company, and you might not even align with that, what the decision process was there. Um, there's a lot of turnover. I've been with like four different companies, maybe five within the last 10 years of me being in the Web3 space. um, so there is, but that being said, I think we're starting to move in the direction where the builders that have been building for the past 4 or 5 years are now going to find themselves in a market, or they're going to find themselves in a market where their product's going to be a lot more stable because they understand what's been needed. I think that there are going to be marketplaces out there that pissed off their community, and there's opportunity for new tech to come in and completely outshine the old tech that's happened. And I think there'll be reward for community members that have stuck around and held on to like the back cows that you guys have. And I think that if like a Warner Brothers come back and decides to revamp the Game of Thrones, there's going to be opportunity there. It's just a matter of making sure that these companies want it. But yeah, so I mean, I think I'll end there because I got to go to this next meeting.
Thank you so much for joining us. I hope to chat with you again soon. How about
Yeah,
that?
anytime, add me to a chat and we can all, do some fun stuff.
Thank you so much.